Hi.
Hello again. This subhead, In Search of Christian Freedom, A People for His Name, is viewing symbols in their proper perspective. In view of all the scriptural evidence, and particularly the example of Jesus and his apostles, it seems clear that focusing on and intensely emphasizing the name Jehovah proves little as to the validity of any religion's claim for making known and sanctifying the name of God in its most important sense. The Christian scriptures, as God has seen fit to have them preserved for us by means of thousands of ancient manuscripts, nowhere place focus on the Tetragrammaton in any form. They show that God's Son did not place emphasis on that designation, either in speech or in prayer, revealing instead that his designation of choice was Father. They show that in their writings his apostles and disciples followed that same pattern. Reluctance to follow their example, perhaps even a fear of doing so, may be the result of yet another mistaken viewpoint, an error in value judgment.
Humans often commit the error of focusing on a symbol and failing to see and give importance to the greater thing of which the symbol is merely a representation. The flag of any nation, for example, is properly shown respect. The respect is due not because of the cloth of which it is composed of, or particularly because of the design it bears, but because it is a symbol of the government and nation and the ideals for which it stands. Yet some commit the error of forgetting that such a national emblem always remains only a symbol. It is not in any way equal to what it symbolizes. They may profess great reverence for the symbol, while by their conduct they degrade that for which it stands, wrapping themselves in the flag, while engaging in speech and acts and deeds that are in violation of, or out of harmony with the laws and principles on which the particular nation is founded.
As Jehovah's Witnesses know, because of their scrupling against saluting any flag of any nation, some persons in the United States during the 1940s engaged in mob violence against them, viciously beating them, destroying their property. In doing so, those persons betrayed the very laws and principles of the nation that the flag symbolizes, showed contempt for the provisions of its constitution and judicial system. In the African nation of Malawi, the same unreasoning importance was attributed to a national party card, and when, in submissively adhering to organizational teachings and policy, witnesses refused to purchase this, they were beaten, their homes were burned, and they were forced to flee the country. In all such cases, the extreme and unbalanced importance placed upon the symbol itself contributed to acts which did not honor, but which degraded that for which the symbol stood. The symbol can be altered or even replaced, yet that which it represents may remain the same.
In the field of religion, some show the same unbalanced view towards symbols. The Israelites repeatedly committed such error. For centuries, Jehovah employed the Ark of the Covenant as a symbol of his own presence, the cloud appearing above the Ark's cover, evidently providing a miraculous light. In the most holy of the temple, similarly symbolized his presence. To suggest that these things might someday cease to be would have then seemed sacrilegious to Israelites, something unthinkable. Yet the time came when God allowed both the Ark of the Covenant and the temple itself to be destroyed, and the cloud in the most holy to cease for all time. The disappearance of these symbols in no way diminished his person or his glory. Rather, it demonstrated his superiority to such symbols themselves. They were all but a shadow of better, greater things, the realities.
Because of the manner in which God's Son died, the cross has historically been used by Christian religions in general as a symbol of that death and what it signifies for mankind. The Apostle Paul spoke of that instrument, called a torture stake in the New World Translation, as representative of the very essence of the good news he proclaimed. Yet some make such a symbol something sacred in itself, even going to the point of attributing near magical powers to it, as though that symbol were a charm capable of protecting them from harm and evil, from demonic powers. In thus superstitiously perverting the symbol, they prove false to the Son of God, whose purpose on earth is summed up in that symbol.
There was a footnote to one of the paragraphs about the cross here. It reads, "I believe that the Watchtower's debate over whether stake or cross is the proper term for the instrument of Christ's execution is really of little meaning. We know that Romans frequently did use a cross, as we now commonly know it, for purposes of execution. And even though in other contexts a cross may have had sexual connotations in those ancient times, it is perfectly obvious that when used to execute people, there was nothing sexual implied. In the Watchtower Society's insistence on the Greek term staros, as referring to stake or pole, it ironically never mentions in this connection that poles were a very common phallic symbol, and thus as much a sex symbol as the cross ever was."
It's noteworthy that Ray italicizes some of the words in there to show the Watchtower's double standard on this.
Yeah.
But we know their insistence upon the negation of the cross doctrine has more to do with their desire to separate themselves from Christendom rather than any historical.
Give themselves another distinctive.
Whereas, as he rightly points out in here, the cross for Paul was a symbol of Christ's sacrifice. It's already there in the New Testament in verbal form, if not yet in artistic form. So we want to link you to the cross series we've done before, and that blessedly has become one of the videos, some of the videos that have been most watched by other people, because this fascinates, it seems, ex-witnesses. Are the Watchtower's words about the significance of the cross really based upon its historical or its theological connections? Its church connection, I would say, is the biggest factor of all.
Yeah.
We also want to link to the Daniel playlist, because you have a great example in Daniel of someone who obviously knew the real meaning of name. If you look at the list, and we also will give you a PDF of this, because in the videos we didn't actually go through the list, but we did through individual videos mention the substitutions or surrogate names that Daniel used in public for the Tetragrammaton.
More than 20.
More than 20 of them, and he never uses the name Yahweh or Jehovah in public. Why is that? Well, because he knew, as Christ did too, that the connotation of name has to do with character and attributes.
So we'll give you, in the description, we'll give you our email, so you can request the PDF if you want one.
We also want to dwell upon the connection that Ray is making here between the symbol of the name. We don't, as Jehovah's Witnesses, think about that very much, the name itself being a symbol. We certainly know the symbolic significance of the flag. We talk about that a lot, and therefore we make it a prohibition, the salute of the flag or the standing up for the national anthem. We know the symbolic significance of the cross, and that becomes one of the great negatives of Jehovah's Witnesses' life. But the fact that the Tetragrammaton itself is a symbol eludes us, and I'm glad that Ray spends a lot of time on that here. Now he goes back to it in the next section. So the next section, what's the connection between the symbolism of the name Yahweh and the people of Israel? I thought that was a refreshing turn in the discussion, because exactly it's Daniel's main point too, when you think about it that way, that Daniel prays in prayer to Jehovah about the covenant responsibilities Israel has and about the covenant commitments God has. He uses the name. But on other occasions, when he's in a Gentile context, he doesn't. So I'm so glad Ray picked up on that and discusses it in the next segment.
Okay.